Welcome back to On Point Recap. Today I will show you a 2014 American war movie called Fury. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The movie starts with a narration about the war of the Nazi army against the Allied countries. A Nazi soldier is riding a white horse and checking the remains of the battle. Suddenly he is attacked and killed by Sergeant Don Collier, also known in the war as Wardaddy. Wardaddy lets the horse go and goes back into the tank, named Fury. Inside are his troops, namely Boyd Bible Swan, Trini Gordo Garcia, and Grady Kunas Travis. Kunas is repairing the tank, and he blames Wardaddy for what happened to them. They are all messed up and devastated because one of their comrades died when they were attacked. After Kunas finished his repairs, they departed from the battlefield. Back at the Allied camp, Wardaddy was greeted by Sergeant Binkowski. After talking for a while, Wardaddy was approached by a soldier and asked where the rest of their platoon was. But Wardaddy and his men were the only ones left. Meanwhile, Bible, Gordo, and Kunas talked about Red, their fallen comrade. Wardaddy then arrived and gave them orders. Wardaddy himself was visibly devastated by Red's death. After some time, he was approached by new soldier Norman Ellison. Norman introduces himself as Wardaddy's new assistant driver and gunner. Looking at Norman, Wardaddy can't believe what he's hearing. Norman Ellison himself has only been in the army for 8 weeks. Wardaddy tells him to go to the other troops, follow orders. He meets the other troops. Norman is fixing Fury. Gordo takes his bag and looks for cigarettes but only finds a book. The 3 troops ask about his job in the army, and they continue to intimidate him. Then, Kunas orders him to clean the inside of Fury. Norman for the first time sees the inside of a tank. He starts cleaning the blood when he sees a piece of a mangled face. Suddenly he gets back out of the tank and vomits. Meanwhile, Wardaddy is talking to other soldiers about their situation. Suddenly an SS soldier prisoner comes who is going to be taken to the camp. Wardaddy and the others attack the prisoner but they are quickly stopped. Then, he tells Norman that he must kill every German soldier he meets. As it turns out, Norman has never killed anyone before. Wardaddy gives him a gun and Kunas teaches him how to use it. Meanwhile, Wardaddy continues to talk to other soldiers about the next step. Wardaddy will be the platoon sergeant for their mission. After discussing the plan, they get ready and set off. On their way, they pass by people who are evacuating. Wardaddy warns them to stay alert for enemies hidden among the people. Then, Norman sees someone from the tree line but hesitates to shoot him. This instead causes them to be ambushed by the enemy. A tank explodes and Norman sees a soldier on fire and shoots himself to death. Wardaddy immediately chases the enemies and kills them. The enemies who ambushed them turned out to be just children. Wardaddy returns to Norman and scolds him for hesitating to kill the enemy. Now, Norman carries the burden because someone died due to his negligence. Wardaddy took over the platoon leadership and continued the mission. When they arrived at their destination, a soldier greeted them. The soldier took Wardaddy to Captain Wagoner. He was frustrated to learn that they did not send enough reserves as he requested, but he trusted Wardaddy. So he still had a little faith in him. They discussed the mission to rescue the captain's soldiers who were trapped in enemy territory. Then they prepared themselves and continued the mission. The platoon arrived at the trapped soldiers and began to rescue them. The tank was in front of the soldiers behind. Then, suddenly the enemy started shooting at them, and a gunfight ensued. The enemy had powerful machine guns and anti-tank weapons. Meanwhile, Norman was still not used to fighting. A soldier was about to shoot them and he could not return fire, because he panicked while reloading his weapon. Luckily, Bible saved him. Gordo scolded Norman, then ordered him to shoot the enemies lying on the ground. Norman refused to follow his orders because he thought they were dead. But Gordo insisted on shooting twice. Wardaddy scolded him, saying this was all part of war. After some time, they managed to defeat the Nazi soldiers. A soldier approaches a dying man and prays for him. Inside the tank, Wardaddy asks Norman if he knows what his mistake is. It turns out that Norman was not trained to fight, he was just pulled out and sent to Germany. Then, another soldier catches a Nazi soldier wearing an American jacket and teases him. Wardaddy stops them and orders Norman to kill the Nazi soldier immediately. When he refuses, Wardaddy grabs his gun and forces him to hold it, forcing him to pull the trigger. The Nazi soldier dies with the gun in his hand. Bible picks him up, and they return to the group. Gordo tells him that even though Wardaddy is often tough, he is the main reason why their group is solid. On the way to the nearest town, they see bodies hanging. It was the Germans who refused to fight. Now they arrive in the town and look for the German soldiers who are hiding. When they ask the old man where the German soldiers are hiding, suddenly the old man is shot by a sniper. A shootout ensues. In the end, Wardaddy and his platoon managed to take the town after Burgermeister surrendered. A group of children and women, who were forced to fight, are rescued, and they kill their leader. After that, the soldiers celebrate their victory. Gordo and Kunas seduce a German woman, and take her into the Fury, taking turns playing the flesh injection game with her. Meanwhile, Wardaddy approaches Norman and praises him for killing the enemy. Norman responds with sarcasm. Wardaddy then takes him to an office full of corpses. Speaking of the idealism of war, Wardaddy just wants to make Norman realize something. When they step outside, Wardaddy sees a woman peeking out of the window. He and Norman immediately check the woman's apartment. There, they find Irma, and her younger cousin, Emma, who are hiding. Wardaddy then decides to stay there for a while, giving Irma 2 packs of cigarettes for food and hot water so she can shave. While the women are preparing food, they are all surprised, including Wardaddy, to hear Norman playing the piano. Emma walks towards Norman and sings while he plays. Then, Wardaddy encourages Norman to approach Emma, and the two go to the bedroom. Irma tried to stop her, but Wardaddy calmly stopped her, saying that she should let them enjoy it while they were still young. Inside, Emma and Norman shared their pleasure. After a while, when they were about to eat, Bible, Gordo, and Kunas came rushing in. They said that a woman was waiting for Norman in the tank, but as soon as they saw Emma, they immediately realized what had just happened. Then they, especially Kunas, start to intimidate Norman and bother Emma. But Wardaddy stops them. They all eat together when Gordo tells a story. Something goes wrong and tensions start to arise between the soldiers. Wardaddy warns them not to spoil his meal, but Gordo continues his story about how to kill a horse. To kill a horse, you have to befriend it and gain its trust, then you kill it. Wardaddy warns him to be quiet, but Bible and Kunas support him. After that, Wardaddy sarcastically thanks them for the conversation and slams the table and spits at Kunas. But Gordo quickly apologizes. Then a soldier comes and calls them. They are ordered to seize and hold a crossroads, but this mission is dangerous because they do not know what they are going to face. As they prepare to leave, a German shell hits the town, right at Irma and Emma's house. Norman immediately heads there, and Kunas follows him. He finds Emma dead, which makes Norman's anger rise against the Nazi soldiers. Kunas encourages him to get back in the tank, but he refuses. Kunas then lets Norman beat him up to let out his frustration, and pulls him back into the tank afterward. The platoon departs, Norman still deeply hurt by Emma's death. Wardaddy talks to him, telling him that death is part of war. On their way to the crossroads, they are ambushed. Enemy soldiers riding in Tiger tanks attack them. The platoon has trouble identifying the enemy, so the enemy manages to kill Sergeant Davis, who is shot in the head by the tank's cannon, and Sergeant Binkowski is burned to death. Fury, led by Wardaddy, is now facing off against the Tiger tanks. Wardaddy plans their attack, and they manage to destroy the Tiger tank and kill the enemy soldiers. Like in the beginning of the film, Wardaddy and his squad are the only ones left. Wardaddy tries to tell his superiors what happened, but can't because their radios are broken. Stressed and devastated, Wardaddy, Bible, Gordo, Kunas, and Norman just laugh about their situation. Fury reaches the crossroads, but is stopped after stepping on a landmine. The tank's chain is broken and will take some time to repair. Wardaddy orders Kunas and Norman to check a nearby building. Inside the building, Kunas apologizes to Norman. After finding only one dead German soldier, they immediately return to the troops. Then, Wardaddy ordered Norman to guard them from the top of the hill. While eating, Norman heard something. Looking back, he was scared out of his wits, seeing a battalion of German soldiers marching towards them. He ran to tell Wardaddy and the others about the battalion coming. When Wardaddy heard the shouts of the enemy troops marching, he recognized them as the SS battalion. Bible wanted to leave, but Wardaddy wanted to stay. He insisted that they should continue their mission, but Kunas pointed out that they had no chance against the enemy battalion. In the end, Wardaddy allowed them to leave if they wanted. But he would stay and defend the crossroads because it was their mission, and as a platoon leader, he couldn't just abandon it. Norman decided to stay, and one by one the others decided not to leave as well. They asked Wardaddy about his plan, then he ordered them to take the dead German soldiers and burn them. They also disguise Fury as a destroyed tank and hide inside. Considering the limited amount of ammunition, they wait for the right time to attack. Inside, while preparing their weapons, Wardaddy finds alcohol, and they share their last drink. Realizing that this could be their last moment as a squad, Bible preaches a verse that he has always thought about. He is surprised when Wardaddy quotes the book and chapter where his favorite verse comes from. They also give Norman a war name, which is Machine, because as Kunas said, he is a fighting machine, a killing machine, and a sex machine. After that, Machine sees the enemy approaching their tank. He tells the others and they all prepare. The enemy surrounds Fury, and when a soldier opens the cover, Machine shoots him and the battle begins. The battle between the battalion and 5 men. This is the longest night they have ever experienced. They throw grenades at the enemy and destroy their tracks. They also blow up a nearby building where a number of enemy soldiers are hiding when the shooting starts. The Germans start to return fire, but with Wardaddy's orders, the 5 men manage to gain the upper hand. The critical moment comes, when they start to run out of ammunition. Wardaddy planned to go out, to get ammo, and ordered Gordo and Machine to cover him. They threw smoke grenades and the two got out of the tank cover and covered Wardaddy while he got the ammo. Once he finished collecting the ammo, he ordered them to go back inside. But the enemy managed to climb the tank. And managed to shoot Wardaddy. Luckily, it was not a fatal wound. And Bible immediately treated his wound. On the other side, the Germans brought their anti-tank guns. They planned to attack the group with a continuous attack. There was a moment of silence that echoed around. Both armies were wary of each other, especially Wardaddy's army, because they had limited ammo. Then, the enemy started shooting at them with anti-tank guns, which managed to make a hole in Fury's side, and it went through Kunas, killing him. Bible cried in pain, but Wardaddy ordered him to stay strong because they were still in the middle of a war. The 4 men continued to fight, but the Germans were too many. They shot and threw grenades at the enemy simultaneously. After some time, they finally ran out of ammunition. All that remained were their handguns and 50 Fury machine guns. On the other hand, the Nazi soldiers knew they were out of bullets and planned to finish them off. Back on the Fury, the 4 men prepare to leave and the shooting begins again. Wardaddy took up position at the machine gun, while the others with their weapons. Then Bible runs out of bullets and goes out to collect from the slain enemy soldiers. Meanwhile, Gordo is about to throw a grenade, but he gets shot. The grenade falls into the tank, and he uses his body to block the explosion, protecting Wardaddy and Machine. Now, only 3 people remained against the German army. Outside, the weapons of the Nazi soldiers who were taken by the Bible are apparently still alive and being held captive. He is attacked by other enemies, but Machine arrives and saves him. The 2 of them manage to get into the tank, when the enemy threw a grenade as quickly as possible. Then, we see a sniper, in camouflage, slowly crawling and approaching Fury. Back at Wardaddy, he is still fighting his enemies. He called the Bible to give grenades. However, as soon as Bible emerges from the cover of the tank, he is shot in the head by a sniper. The sniper shot again and managed to hit Wardaddy this time. Trying to make sure of his death, the sniper shoots Wardaddy again, but Wardaddy manages to get into the tank. Inside, Wardaddy and Machine have a heartfelt conversation. Machine admits that he is scared, and so is Wardaddy. Machine wants to surrender, but Wardaddy tells him that they will torture him to death. Outside, enemy soldiers storm the tank and throw grenades into it. Wardaddy immediately tells Machine to escape through the tank's undercarriage. He tries to hide in the mud, but a young German soldier sees him. The German soldier just looks at him and walks away, as if feeling the burden of what happened. The next morning he is awakened by the sound of a white horse passing by. He goes back into the tank and covers Wardaddy's dead body. Hearing a noise from outside, he grabs Wardaddy's weapon and prepares to fight. But he is relieved when an American soldier opens the tank's cover and says that he is a hero, after which they take him to the ambulance. The film ends with a badly damaged Fury, while the bodies of German soldiers lie around, with Norman Ellison, now called Machine, as the only survivor.